So you're thinking about buying a home in Glen Allen, Virginia. Glen Allen is a suburb of Richmond with a great laid-back vibe, but its proximity to Richmond lets you take advantage of all the city has to offer without losing the charm of that tight-knit community. Glen Allen is located just northwest of Richmond in western Henrico County. It has a population right now of right at 17,000 folks, and their median income is just over $79,000. The two Glen Allen zip codes are 23059 and 23060. So is Glen Allen the right place for your next move? Let's break down the pros and cons of Glen Allen so you can see how it stacks up for your next move or real estate investment. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about living in Richmond, Virginia and the surrounding counties of Hanover, Henrico, Chesterfield, New Kent, Goochland, and Powhatan, then subscribe below and tap the notifications bell so you can be the first to know about the market in Richmond, Virginia. My name is 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤 with Joyner Fine Properties. My team and I get calls from folks like you every single day looking to make their move to Greater Richmond, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 9 days, 90 days, or 9 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. All that information is described below, and we can help you make a smooth move to Richmond, Virginia. All right, so today we're talking about pros and cons of Glen Allen, Virginia. So let's get into it with the first pro. All right, I would say the first pro of living in Glen Allen is just a great prime location if you want to be centrally located in the greater RVA area. If you work downtown, it's a very simple commute right down I-64 East. If you work either at CarMax or the Capital One campuses off of 288, it's super easy to get there by taking I-295 to 64 West and then just hopping on 288 and it's right there. You would take that same route if you needed to go south of the river if you happen to work in Chesterfield. There's easy access to I-95 north if you work in Ashland or somewhere north of Richmond, kind of headed up to that Fredericksburg area. And if you happen to travel a lot for work, access to the airport is very, very easy by taking I-295 south, just straight to the airport exit, and boom, you're right there ready to get on your plane. So it's easy to get just about everywhere in the greater Richmond area from Glen Allen. So that great prime location is definitely a plus. All right, let's talk about pro number 2. It kind of dovetails pretty nicely from pro number 1, which was that prime location. That prime location just makes it really easy for you to get to shopping and entertainment. For shopping, I would have to say, and I've said this in video after video, the Short Pump Town Center, if you live out in western Henrico, is going to be that epicenter for your shopping needs. That corridor between I-64 and 288 on Broad Street, there's about a 3-mile stretch, and the Short Pump Town Center is right in there. But you're going to have about every single thing you would ever want shopping and dining wise right in that 3-mile corridor. Not that there's not other shops and restaurants, in the area, because there's plenty, but they're so compacted in that area. It's really a hot spot. So, at Short Pump Town Center, I would say it's probably one of the best malls in all of Virginia. Maybe there's something in Northern Virginia that can compete with it, but definitely outside of that, hands down, the best mall. You've got everything. You've got Dillard's, you've got Macy's, Ann Taylor, Apple Store, Banana Republic, Crate and Barrel, Dick's Sporting Goods, several jewelers. There's the Kate Spade store. My wife loves that. There's Tommy Bahama. One of my favorites is LL Bean and Orvis. Guys typically love those stores. Not that the women don't too, but I like those a whole lot. There's Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, you name it, it's there. Tons of great restaurants there too. Baker's Crust, the Boathouse for seafood, California Pizza Kitchen, Cheesecake Factory, Firebirds, Texas de Brazil. I've mentioned that one. If you are into meat, Texas de Brazil is where you can go get your meat coma on. They bring it to your table and they carve many cuts of meat for you right at the table, and you can eat until they roll you out of there. Don't recommend it, but you could. There's Maggiano's for Italian. There's Casa del Barco there for your Mexican. There's literally just about every type of food at that mall. And then you have the Funny Bone Comedy Club, which is really neat. Right down the street from there, you have the Drive Shack, which is just like a Topgolf. So again, many things to do in that area around the Short Pump Town Center. Also, if you want to get to all the cultural things that Richmond has to offer, you are just a hop, skip, and a jump down Interstate 64 to get to like the Diamond where the Flying Squirrels play, to get to Scott's Addition where we have all the wonderful breweries. I'm not going to go into a ton of those here. I've talked about that in other videos, and if you want to know about that, I would look at the map tour of Richmond, Virginia, and we get into where a lot of these breweries are. So again, there's a lot to do out in the Short Pump area, a lot of shopping, a lot of entertainment, a lot of dining. So that is definitely a plus of, living in that Glen Allen area, which is right, sort of adjacent to Short Pump. So now we're going to talk about cost of living in Glen Allen. And by that, I'm mainly talking about house prices, as that is the greatest driver of cost of living. Oddly enough, this is going to be a pro and a con for Glen Allen, and hopefully I can make sense of that for you. As I said before, Glen Allen is made up of two zip codes, 23059 and 23060. Now, when you think about the Short Pump area, the two major zip codes you think about for Short Pump are 23059 and 23233. So as you can see, part of Glen Allen sort of has some, which is 23059, which is that sort of western part of Glen Allen, has some crossover with Short Pump. It is in that Short Pump area and kind of considered part of Short Pump, even though it's also part of Glen Allen. So let's look at some recent resales from those three zip codes. So we're going to start in the Short Pump let's start with 23059. The sales there are very high. In the last 70 days, we had 90 closed sales in the 23059 zip code with an average sales price of $736,000. Now, let's break down those 70 sales. Only 25 of those 70 sales were listed under $500,000. Only 6 of those were listed under $400,000. And a big 0 were listed under $300,000. So let's now go just south of Broad Street into the other Short Pump zip code, which is 23233. In the last 90 days, we had 66 closed sales in 23233 with an average sales price of $630,000. So we are coming down a little bit, but that's still a pretty big average price. So breaking down those 66 sales, 28 of those were listed under $500,000. 11 were listed under $400,000. And again, a big goose egg were listed under $300,000. All right, so that you can see is kind of on the con side. Now let's get to the pro. If you go to the other side of Glen Allen, which is a little more eastern, down the eastern side of 295, if you go to the 23060 zip code, things start looking a little better. There were 86 closed sales in the last 90 days. The average sales price of those 86 closed sales was $440,000. So you can see there's a big drop off there. $440 compared to an average sales price of $736 in 23059 and $630 in 23233. So we are down, $300,000 from 23059, and we're down $200,000 from 23233. Sorry, this is a lot of numbers that are getting thrown at you, but there's no other way around it. So if you go over to the 23060 zip code, things get way more affordable in Glen Allen. So you have the western side that's a little less affordable because we have the crossover with Short Pump in 23059, and then we get to the other side, 23060, it looks a little bit better. So in the two Short Pump zip codes, again, I'm sorry, I'm keep throwing zip codes at you, 23059 and 23233, your chances of getting a home under $400,000 are slim. When I say slim, 17 of the 133 closed sales, which is 13% of those sales, had a list price of under $400,000, and none had a list price of under $3,000. So there's way more opportunity at these two price points in the 23060 zip code. So hopefully that explains why, there is a pro and a con to living in Glen Allen. It just depends on what side and what zip code you live in as to the affordability of Glen Allen. All right, so for number 4, we're going to hop back in the one that is squarely in the pro column and doesn't sort of straddle the fence, and that's going to be safety. Glen Allen is a very, very safe place to live. According to the website Neighborhood Scout, Glen Allen is 56% lower crime than your average city in Virginia and 75% lower crime than your average city nationwide. So to me, that sounds pretty good. Now you're going to want to do your own research if safety is a concern for you, and there's lots of good websites out there. You can contact local police departments, or Neighborhood Scout is a great website for that. So please do your own research. But from the data I'm seeing and from living in the greater RVA area for almost 30 years, I can tell you Glen Allen is a very safe place, and I think you'll like that. All right, for the 5th pro of living in Glen Allen, Virginia, we're going to talk about schools. That is another great bonus about Glen Allen. If you're thinking about the public school route for your children, I think you'll be happy. According to niche.com and greatschools.org, and a lot of these other rating websites, Glen Allen has some of the best schools in the area. There are also some great private school options as well that you could explore. I would recommend digging into some of these various rating websites and just using the zip codes 23059 and 23060 to take a look at the various stats, because it's hard for me to know the exact metrics by which you may rate a school. Is it student to teacher ratio? Is it diversity of the student body? Is it scores on standardized proficiency tests? What's important to me may not be what's important to you and your family. So again, I would definitely look on these rating websites yourself. But in general, I think you're going to be very happy with what you see with the schools in Glen Allen, Virginia. So that's definitely a bonus. All right, number 6 on our list for pros of Glen Allen, Virginia are going to be there are some new construction opportunities still in Glen Allen. You'll find around most metropolitan areas, it is really built up right around the city, and you have to go farther and farther and farther and farther out these days to find new construction, just because areas tend to be built from the inside out. But there are still some new construction opportunities in Glen Allen. If you look at the data, in the last 180 days, we had 44 new home. This is single family new home closed sales. There are still some fairly large subdivisions being built in Glen Allen. Ones to look at would be River Mill, Fry's Landing, and then there's an area called Bacova, and then there's many sub-neighborhoods within the Bacova general development. So there are definitely opportunities in that north of Broad sector in Glen Allen. Now, just for comparison, I looked at closed new home sales in the Short Pump area just south of Broad Street, and in the last 180 days, there were only 5 new home closed sales. So I dug into those a little bit deeper, and they were all, I'm going to say, like spot lots of that aren't really in a neighborhood that's still being built out. They were just for some reason leftover lots from neighborhoods that are just happen to be getting built on now. So none of those 5 were in what I'm going to call like a sort of up and coming, new neighborhood. So really in Glen Allen, if you're looking at Western Henrico, that's where you're going to find some new home construction opportunities. All right, it can't all be peaches and cream. There are a few cons to living in Glen Allen. If I was looking for a con, I may say the tax rate in Henrico County. Glen Allen's part of Henrico County. So with the exception of the city of Richmond, which is our highest, and Chesterfield County, which comes in number 2, Henrico would be number 3 on our highest tax rates for real estate property tax in the Metro Richmond area. Again, like I said, Glen Allen's part of Henrico County. Henrico County is 85 cents per 100 of assessed value. So looking at that, if you have a $500,000 house in Glen Allen, you're looking at annual taxes of $4,250 or $354 a month. If you slid just north of Glen Allen into 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤 County, which is its neighbor to the north, that same $500,000 house would cost you annual taxes of $2,650 or $221 a month. 𝙋𝙧𝙤𝙤 just happens to be the lowest of all of the counties. So there is a little bit of a difference tax-wise, between those two counties, which are just, neighboring right next to each other. So it's not a huge con, but I would say it's something to, put in your, thoughts when you're thinking about Glen Allen. All right, the second con of perhaps living in Glen Allen, although it is a very prime location, you may hit some congestion if you're traveling downtown in the morning to work. Now, I-64 is super convenient to get to, but there's a spot where I-64 and 95 merge together, and that tends to be a fairly nice backup in the morning if you're headed to work downtown. Same thing if you're headed on 288 over to Chesterfield or either the CarMax campus or Capital One campus. Those are both huge employers that are right off of Route 288. There's a lot of folks headed that way in the morning to work. So again, you can hit some congestion in that area. Now, again, if you're coming from California or New York or Atlanta or any of these big cities, when I say congestion, you will absolutely laugh at what I am calling congestion, because you will feel like the traffic's probably moving still at a light speed. But for those of us that are native to Richmond, that can feel like, it will slow down, but it's not awful. So that's just something to consider if you're, working in either of those two areas, is it can get a bit congested at times. All right, so that is it with our pros and cons of living in Glen Allen, Virginia. I hope you enjoyed it and found this information helpful. These are the type of things we talk through with clients every day when they're moving to Richmond and trying to decide where to land. Overall, I believe you can't go wrong with Glen Allen. As you can see, we had way more pros than cons, and the cons weren't even, really all that bad. So if you would like to talk about this more, please give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. All of that information is below. And until next time, I hope to see you around town.